Hey Soul Fam, welcome or welcome back. We're doing a video today on evolutionary astrology. As some of you may know, I am an evolutionary and intuitive astrologer, and I think it's really important to address the kind of astrology that I practice and the kind of astrology I do not practice. I think that astrology has morphed into something that it is not over the recent years. Over time has just kind of taken on a very basic and lacking, for lack of a better term, shape. And I really want to address how I practice astrology, what techniques I use, and this is just going to be a little bit of an introduction to evolutionary and intuitive astrology that I personally practice and believe. If you guys are new here, my name is Leah, aka the Cosmic Rose, and we do astrology 101, tarot, and spirituality here on my channel. Go ahead and smash that like button as well as subscribe so you can stay up to date on the current astrology as well as your all sign tarot horoscopes and other spiritual topics. Let's dive into this. So as you may know, astrology has most definitely become increasingly popular over the recent years, and I think it's important to address that some of the astrology techniques are not only outdated, but they've also been morphed into things that they are not. It has almost become a commonality that astrology is very cookie cutter. For example, everyone with a Mars in Cancer is not going to be the same. Everyone with a Venus in Virgo is not going to be the same, and so on and so forth. Every planet in a sign can take on a certain archetype, sure, but every chart is 100% unique to you. It is your cosmic blueprint, and the definitions that pop astrologers and cookie cutter astrologers are using are very limiting, and we're not addressing things like the unconscious and the unseen. And instead of looking at astrology as character definition, I think it's really important from an evolutionary standpoint to think of it more as a reflection of what's going on inside holistically. We don't necessarily want to define ourselves through our charts, but on the contrary, we may want to figure out how we process things, how we internalize things, and how our soul can evolve and grow, and that is where evolutionary astrology comes in. The basis of evolutionary astrology stems from the fact that, or the belief that we came from somewhere else before here. So our soul is inevitably on a growth journey, an evolution journey, and our job throughout our lives, most commonly referred to as reincarnation, is to evolve and grow and learn from our experiences and our internal experiences, not just our external experiences. It is the belief in evolutionary astrology that there is a very reason that your soul chose to incarnate with your birth chart. Now, disclaimer, you do not have to believe in reincarnation to believe in evolutionary astrology. That is the most common depiction of evolutionary astrology. And most astrologers that practice evolutionary astrology do agree to reincarnation to some extent. There is extensive research on reincarnation and past lives. I can link some books and articles down below, but there has been many studies on this topic. But that being said, you do not have to believe in reincarnation. The core belief is that you are here to grow. And that links up very well with the thought and theory of reincarnation. That being said, the core of evolutionary astrology is for your growth, which also stems from the fact that we are human, we are imperfect, we incarnate here with problems and issues that we are meant to resolve, whether that reflects just ourselves or it reflects our physical reality, our relationships with other people, or things that we do in this lifetime. We are going to be faced with challenges that we are supposed to resolve to some capacity. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the term shadow or shadow work. This is the unconscious or the subconscious, darker, quote unquote, darker parts of ourselves that we are supposed to work with in this lifetime to resolve our issues. This can also be phrased as our karma or our karmic predicament, and this is actually the medicine for in which we can use to grow and evolve. If you can't experience the more painful things or the more challenging things in life or our imperfect parts of ourselves, then we have no room to grow. This also stems from the idea that if we are source consciousness, if we are God, if we are spirit, then spirit itself is somewhat imperfect. That is just food for thought. Maybe you can meditate on that. The core of evolutionary astrology is improvement. Now, I'm not saying that pop astrology and modern day astrology is not based on improvement. I think the more heavy emphasis is on defining our character, which can be useful in some circumstances from a psychological perspective. Evolutionary astrology does use psychological archetypes to an extent, but that is not what the root is about. It is about your growth. If you are using astrology for character definition, but you're not using that or applying it to your life and using it in an experimental fashion to grow and evolve, we're always going to be faced with challenges. We're always going to make mistakes. But how are you using those mistakes to grow? That is what we use evolutionary astrology for. I think another problem with modern pop astrology, as well as some forms of traditional or Hellenistic astrology, is that there are quote unquote negative placements. Now, I do think that learning from the traditional teachings of astrology from those lenses is important to know the history of astrology and how those things came to a conclusion. But that being said, I don't necessarily think they're helpful unless we're applying it from a evolution standpoint. If you have a planet that's in fall or detriment, yes, that's helpful to know. But the most important question you should be asking yourself is why? Why did your soul choose to have that placement? Even just your sun sign. Why did you choose to incarnate with your sun sign? Ask yourself that question and then do that with all of your planets. Now, I am just going to give you a little brief introduction to kind of the evolutionary astrology technique. And if you guys like this video, I can go further into this in further videos and we can get more in depth and really get to the roots of evolutionary astrology. I'm just going to go over the basic principles and what the main themes and focuses are of evolutionary astrology. But if you guys want to dive deeper, please let me know down in the comments and we can do future videos on the topic. As I was saying at the beginning of the video, evolutionary astrology is based on the unseen. It is based on the holistic view of the birth chart or the astrology if you're looking at transits. It's based on the unconscious, and that is where the two most important things in evolutionary astrology come in. First being Pluto. Now, different evolutionary astrologers will argue the significance of one being more important than the other, but to me, they're both equally important. On one hand, we have the lunar nodes, and on the other hand, we have Pluto. Those are going to be the lens in which the birth chart is filtered. We can dive further into how we can use Pluto and the nodes in further videos, but just know that Pluto and the nodes are going to hold the key to the unconscious, where you have came from and where you are going. A combination of the lunar nodes and Pluto can give us deep insight into where our soul has been in the past. We can take this as far as specific past lives or just general archetypes. You can even combine this with things like meditation or psychotherapy to get even further on this and do past life regressions, things of that nature. But evolutionary astrology and the use of Pluto in the nodes gives us a deeper look at your soul's path. And if you think about it, you can't really figure out where you're going unless you know where you have been, known what your soul has experienced and the struggles and the pains and the triumphs that it has experienced holistically. We're not looking at minute details, but we're looking at the soul unconscious archetype that you experienced in other lives if you believe in reincarnation. Pluto is the soul. It is the undercurrent, the unconscious. And many people in modern pop astrology will debate that, the sun or the moon are the soul, but Pluto is the unconscious soul. So whereas the sun and the moon are more of a conscious part of your soul, Pluto is the soul holistically, wholly. And the lunar nodes are nodes of the moon. Those are your karmic circumstances where your soul yearns to go, where it might be uncomfortable going towards the north node, and where it is more comfortable in from previous lives with the south node. That being said, I do think a lot of modern astrologers emphasize too much on head first towards your north node and completely disregarding the south node. There is things and lessons and archetypes that we can use from the South Node. And it's not really so much as to going towards one node or the other. With any opposition, you need to find a middle ground and a way to integrate the two. Because if you dive headfirst into the North Node, you're not taking anything that you learned from the South Node to go towards your North Node. And that is the key, is to integrate things that you have learned from past lives or past experiences or soul knowledge and integrate that into where your soul is yearning to go and evolve. What's really important to remember with evolutionary astrology is that we have to really integrate ourselves into our chart. We kind of have to merge with our chart, as silly as that sounds, but we have to take our own personal life experiences and our inner experiences, our inner dialogue and our inner feelings and how we have experienced things emotionally and physically and from a soul level. And we have to integrate those and compare and contrast and use it more as an experiment. There are certain placements that you may identify with certain parts or experiences in your life, and this is how we can use it to figure out why we chose to incarnate with those soul experiences and lessons. What was necessary for us to learn from that placement and from that experience that we correlate with that placement, and how has it affected us emotionally, and why did we need to experience those emotions in those psychological difficulties or triumphs. Another key important note about Pluto in the nodes, sometimes evolutionary astrology, we can look at Pluto in the nodes being a way in which Pluto can materialize itself. Because if Pluto is basically the soul or the unconscious or the subconscious, it's the soul holistically, then we can use the nodes to materialize what the soul longs for and the rulers of the nodes. So, if you have, like me, I have my North Node in Scorpio, the ruler of my North Node is Pluto, my South Node being in Taurus, the ruler of my South Node is Venus. Those would be the rulers. We will go over these types of things in further videos. But one of the biggest takeaways I want you guys to take away from this video and evolutionary astrology in general is to look at the chart holistically. Don't isolate placements and really restrict yourself to defining your character and who you are. Because you have a Mercury in Gemini doesn't mean you're going to be the most talkative person in the world. You know what I mean? Not every Mercury in Gemini is going to be the same. That being said, we have to look at the entirety of the chart and apply it to our lives and ask ourselves questions and give ourselves dialogue into how we can use that to evolve, grow, and accept our reality so that we can evolve and grow. Make sure you are asking yourselves about how you think your chart or certain placements have shown up in your life and how your experiences have given you more context on how those different dynamics have played out at different times in your life. No one placement is going to be isolated to one particular point in time. It can play out in several different ways throughout your lifetime. So you will probably have more experiences moving forward with different placements as you evolve. So that was just a little mini introduction to evolutionary and intuitive astrology. If you guys did like this, please do let me know down below in the comments and let me know, and we can do more videos on evolutionary astrology and diving deeper into Pluto, the nodes, and the outer planets, as well as evolutionary astrology holistically. So please let me know down below. If you guys do like this video, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me out. If you want to book personal readings with me, you can message me on any platform. I love you.